this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Everybody's working for the weekend. Taking care of business every day. Now it's wow, 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 wow. Welcome to the working week.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
Minimum wage.
Okay, well, it's time for another exciting edition of the Working Lunch here on WCUW. And welcome, my name is Jeff Turgeon. I'm the host of the program, along with my co-host, Sean McGauley.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Sean's suffering from
A little bit of a sore throat. Got it on my trip to California. I think I got it on the plane.
He's a trooper. He's still here battling away.
Kind of got the edgy radio voice today.
Wolfman. Exactly. Adding a bit of mystery to the show. And so for those that don't know, Sean and I work at the Central Mass Workforce Investment Board, as does our producer extraordinaire. Well, actually retired from the CMWIB, I should say, Bob Zukowski, our producer extraordinaire here.
It's a good excuse to keep him around, though, to keep
exactly.
the show on point.
Keep him back in the fold
Can't be
here.
replaced.
So, and for those that aren't familiar with the board, we're the we oversee the public workforce system in central Massachusetts, Worcester, and 37 surrounding communities, including the federal investment made into workforce training and helping people connect with jobs and helping employers find suitable job candidates. So as part of that effort, we do oversee the performance of and help set policy for 3 career centers in Central Mass area, known here under the brand Workforce Central. So we have actually one of the Workforce Central managers with us, another back with us.
Yes, second time.
That's right. I think you're tied
The
for.
fans wanted him back. We got tons of emails. Filled up the inbox.
I want to thank the general public for that as well.
Yeah, that was.
They were all addressed from Jay Cortes at.
That's not true. There's several J's, several Corteses.
Well, welcome back, and I know that
thank
you've been very busy this past week. You and the crew over at Workforce Central. Why don't you tell us what you had going on last Friday?
Well, last Friday, actually, we had the 4th annual Workforce Central job fair in conjunction with the Worcester Sharks at the DCU Center. And we had some 84 employers there, and all of them having job openings for the job seekers. And once again, we were able to market this across the state with several collaborative efforts, including the WIB.
So some of the staff from other career centers came and gave you a hand, and
All three staffs, all 3 centers, Southbridge, Milford, and Worcester, had staff working there. It's truly a team organization.
Yeah.
It was a great representation from all of the professionals in our offices, again, of the utmost talent, and they were very good, once again, in providing the job seekers and the employers with a very smooth, very fine,
well, you had a
machine.
Talking about job seekers, you had over 2,000 job seekers attend the events. So just managing the flow of job seekers and helping them have time to have a useful and positive interaction with the employers is quite an undertaking in and of itself. So.
Yeah, we're very proud of that. We had, again, this is, I think, our second year at around that 2,000 job seeker mark. I think 3 years ago we had maybe about 1,800.
Okay.
So this was probably the biggest, largest attended job fair.
And probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the whole state, from what I can understand.
You know what? It has been. A lot of couple places in Boston are trying to replicate what we're doing. But in terms of sheer numbers, in terms of employers, like I said, we had 84 employers, somewhere in the vicinity of 2,000 job seekers attending for a 4-hour job fair. It ran from 1 to 5. And we had, staff, Workforce Central staff. We had the DCU Center working there as well, representatives from the Sharks organization who work with us on that. So a very productive, very efficient, and hopefully a very rewarding experience for both the employers and the job seekers that were there.
I did get a lot of great feedback from attendees, both on the employer side and the job seeker side. a lot of folks, expressing, how happy they were that they got an opportunity to get in front of employers face to face, actually have a real live conversation about what jobs they're looking to fill and what they're looking for in candidates. So.
And then speaking of the 84 employers, I think is a huge number. I think that's great. It sounds like it grew from last year. I think there was around 70.
Right.
What kind of industries were represented? Was there
Across
vast
the board, and that's actually how, we do try to open this up for all employers, anybody who wants to be involved with this. We don't try to obviously alienate anyone, but by the same token, we obviously look at the makeup of the companies coming in. So we try to offer as many industries as we can. We work with some of the staffing agencies because that's becoming a very viable option for folks in today's day and age. Companies are using staffing agencies as either the human resource department nowadays, and it's a stepping stone to getting into full-time employment. Years past there was that stigma of the temp agency and a contract job, and
That's
of
kinda
1
changed.
month and 2 months and 3 months. Now companies are not investing in their own human resource department, but actually using these agencies as kind of a probation period with folks before taking them on full time. So that's a vital and important part of a piece of today's job search. As a matter of fact, we also had running concurrently with the fair itself. We had workshops going on,
Right.
and 2 of the workshops that we had were informational sessions, and one of them was actually a panel of the Staffing Agency Association, the Massachusetts Staffing
cool.
Association. So their president and several employers, staffing agency presidents and owners and what have you, were there to answer questions that the job seeker may have. How does this affect for example, if they're on unemployment? How does taking a position for a short term affect their unemployment insurance, their benefits, and other things? As well as what is the probability of moving into a full-time permanent position.
Right.
So kind of debunking the myths, if you will, of years past. So we had that twice. We held those sessions twice throughout the course of the day. We had a trends in manufacturing workshop going on, informational session at the same time. Of course, talking about what's going on.
Is that with the employers from the manufacturing
Actually,
industry?
there was representation from Mass MEP.
Yep.
They were there. Sharon did the actual workshop herself. So she presented twice, 45-minute sessions. And then we also had a workshop that our staff did on how to work a job fair. Kind of instructed, motivating the folks as they came in, cover the do's and don'ts about how to handle yourself in a
Now, was
job
it
fair.
mandatory for folks to go to that, or was that
No,
something
no,
people
absolutely. That's,
felt free to drop in on, or?
Feel free to drop in if they want to be proactive. We actually ran a session before the job fair opened, so kind of like a pregame, getting people ready and talking to them about how to handle themselves, how to conduct their business,
Sure.
go about their
How to
their
maximize
business.
their
Absolutely.
time there.
It can be intimidating walking to a room full of 80-something employers and
Yeah, and hundreds
where do
of
I
other
start?
people,
What do
yeah.
I do?
It's a frenzy.
How do I
It's
stand
like
out?
the old spags. It's
Yeah.
like the old spags, But to Jeff's point earlier, talking about flow, there was a nice flow to the day.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, job seekers were able to have a quality session with an employer and vice versa.
So what do you, let me just, what do you tell people about dress code for the day?
Well, obviously, you want to dress accordingly. You want to come in and present yourself. You have one first impression, right?
Is there such a thing as overdressing?
Peacocking.
No, not really. Well,
What?
that's
Wow, he's up on his
That's fun-
terms,
that's
right?
nice.
He's been reading that internet again.
Yeah,
Did you Google it?
Peacocking. You're
Peacocking.
overselling
A
yourself?
yellow suit, maybe something to really stand out. Is that frowned upon?
Well, that's a bit different,
I
I
think
guess,
that
than just
would be. I think
overdressing.
that
Is
would
it,
be
a suit is okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you're going to see several different
Yellow suit? A
organizations.
yellow suit?
Oh, I mean, you going to walk around with a monkey too?
Which color? Which color
Curious
are you?
George, the man with
Peacocking.
the yellow, man with the yellow hat.
There's a lot of different
Peacocking.
shades of yellow. They might
A
work.
pale yellow.
Mustard.
I
Mustard.
don't think.
No,
it's not-
I
don't think it's
guess
not
why I
necessary,
asked
right?
is because to be now I was actually out of state last week, so I wasn't able to attend
missed
this
out.
year. But I've been in past years, and
Sure.
I've been to several other job fairs and
Right.
stuff that Workforce Central, and you guys do a great job at. What I noticed though is it always surprises me at the people that would show up in like shorts and flip flops, right? I mean, I know that's something Workforce Central does not control at all.
Correct.
But it always surprises me when
People still show
I go to a job fair, the people that maybe dress really casual, and I'm wondering, like, what are they thinking? Like, I can understand, like, hey, maybe you don't have a suit, you just have like a shirt on and dress slacks, like dress casual but still professional. You want to show them, maybe in their mind, they're just showing them like, hey, I'm a casual guy. But I mean, T-shirt and flip-flops. I mean, not that there was a ton of people that arrived like that, but there are,
Well, you have that, and it's unfortunate because really, I mean, what we try to do at the Career Center prior to the job fair itself is all three centers
Do that
offer
workshop
multiple
and- yeah.
times how to work a job fair workshop, specifically for these reasons, so that we can kind of
I wonder
address
if-
that. But unfortunately, folks sometimes maybe don't really understand the gist of what the job fair is. I mean, you're talking about professional organizations
Yep.
who are looking to hire people that they're comfortable with
Well,
and
like you
make them a
said,
member of their team.
it's their one chance to kind of stand in front and shine.
Yeah.
And maybe some people don't. I wonder if anyone was there that day, went to the workshop, and was like,
I
"Oh
gotta go
boy,
home."
I better go home and change, or I better go home and get copies of my resume, or do whatever." Because I know there's some other things that you tell them on how to maximize their time. That, maybe if someone wasn't prepared.
Well, if they use this adventure or that field trip as a learning experience and realize, wow, I'm really out of place, maybe the next time they go to a
They'll
job
be that
fair,
much
they'll
more-
be more, they'll be better suited, no pun intended, for that endeavor.
One of the things I noticed at the job fair was employers that I hadn't seen before was employers would actually have a list of the jobs they had available.
Yes.
So they were posting right out front, so
Specific,
they could
yeah.
say, okay, I need a machine operator or a CNC. You'd see that list right there.
Well, what we've been trying to do is work with the employers more so that they understand our expectation. I mean, it's a two-way street. I mean, we're trying to, teach and instruct and motivate job seekers to come in and bring their A game, present themselves, be ready, have their resume, dress appropriately, and things of that nature. By the same token, we're also talking to the employers and saying, hey, listen, you're not here just to, fetch resumes.
Right.
We want you to interact. We want you to, talk about the positions that are available. And if you know of something, in that
Well, and also, I mean, if you think about it, 2,000 people that are coming through, they don't need to necessarily see all 2,000. If they're not in the ballpark or interested in a job in that industry or have, anywhere near the credentials that they're looking for, it's kind of a waste of their limited time and energy to be dealing with all those folks. So for them to post, kind of who we're looking for probably helps them to have people kind of self-select and deal with, maybe a little bit less quantity but higher quality of the folks that do come by their way.
Well, again, we're talking to the employers.
Yeah.
We want to know what the positions are. We want to know how many positions they have open. We want to make it so that, it's a viable, this employer has viable jobs for these folks to come in. But, what ends up happening is, of course, they have like a hit list. They're coming in with an agenda. They have several positions to fill. And, to their credit, this year, I know I had several folks come to me walking by, and customers and clients, saying that I had a great conversation. The posted positions wasn't what I was looking for. However, because of a byproduct of the conversation, they actually said, hold on a second, I think we have another position that may be better suited for you.
Yeah.
So there was that interaction. So it
that's
was a very,
great.
and those are the intangibles that we don't have any tracking mechanism to, other than people coming up to you and saying,
I was gonna say,
this is what happened.
I know this year too, we've been working at the board level and with your help and the help of the other managers looking at, some sort of way of tracking too a bit more about that feedback from the employers and
absolutely.
hey, what was some of the follow-up items. So as a matter of fact, Sean and I are working on second draft of that. We'll be getting that over to you soon.
Another survey coming at us.
Another
right?
survey. And this is what you need, right? Another survey from the board,
Yeah,
right?
you know
We've
what?
got
What
several
color is
already.
this one going to be? That's all I got to ask.
So Jennithan, we talked
Sure.
about the staffing agencies as kind of a new trend.
Yep.
Employers posting, actually showing what positions they have open. Were there any other notable new trends going on with, with job fairs that you noticed, or is it kind of still the same traditional style?
Well, I think a lot of different organizations have are actually looking at their job fairs and trying to figure out what's best, right? What's best for their clients, their local area. Obviously, Milford has a different population and demographic than, say, Southbridge, for example. So you each have your niche, and you target the employers or the businesses in those areas with the population and the demographics of the people who are in those areas. So the 495 belt has more of an IT kind of landscape as compared to the Southbridge area, which may have more of a manufacturing landscape. So we look at that individually and start to focus on, when we do our local job fairs or recruitment sessions, we kind of tailor that to the clientele that we have. This endeavor, this large job fair, you try to bring all the pieces together, because you have people, honestly, obviously from Massachusetts, but Rhode Island, Connecticut, New
People are
Hampshire.
making the trip.
This is truly a statewide advertised, marketed event, and job seekers are coming from all over.
Well, that's great. And again, it's an amazing event that you have. And I know you got a lot
Thank
of great
you.
publicity. As a matter of fact,
We
you
did.
yourself, you're becoming a media darling. You were on what, NECN
Yeah, we had to book him what?
Right.
Months
months ago.
ago.
Yeah,
month ago.
well,
Yeah,
let me
a month
check my
ago.
book.
And I had
Let
to
me-
beg his assistant to
Right.
try and get him in here. I mean, it
I'll
was-
tell you, we had to buy him coffee.
Great blocker. No, I appreciate that. That's compliment. That was part of my parting gift last week.
Part of the
I think
green
we're
room.
Right,
Now
right,
you gotta
right,
win the
right.
cup. You gotta
Gotta
win
win
the
the
Penta
cup.
mug to go in it.
I think I won the trivia last week.
Well, you going to stick around for a little bit?
Absolutely. I wouldn't
All
miss
right.
it for the world.
Well, we wanted to, we got an issue I wanted to get off my chest here, a bit of a discussion point here, if you will. Sean, you're laughing over there. You know the rant is coming. I'm ready for a full-on rant. Is that what you're?
Well, you know,
Alluded
you
to it.
warned me that you were going to be
I'm
giving
teeing
some
it up
sort of
here.
rant today.
Well, you know what it is. So there's there's a lot of talk about a skills gap, and we've got a lot of people unemployed still. We have a lot of people underemployed that are working maybe part time that want to be full time. Before we get into Bob, did we want to take a break or should we go right into it? We'll just roll with it then. Okay. So we're just gonna keep rolling here. He's ready. He's ready for it. He's ready to hear it.
Live.
So we hear a lot of talk about a skills gap, right? And about how the skills gap exists out there between people that are unemployed or underemployed and the jobs that exist and they're growing. You'd kind of mentioned before about trying to match that up, and that's a big part of what career centers do too, is to play that in between role, that connector role, if you will. But in some industries more than others, I think it's a real phenomenon. And then I think in other industries, it's maybe not as prevalent as people would think. So, for instance, we deal with a lot with manufacturers, and manufacturers certainly suggest that there's a real skills gap, especially around machinists and CNC operators and things. And I think there's it's underappreciated how much math goes into everyday kind of math skill that goes into those jobs on a manufacturing kind of shop environment. And so that, there really is a need for someone with, at least a 12th grade, math level, which isn't as common as you might think, given, if someone graduates high school, they don't necessarily have a 12th grade math, level. They may have passed MCAS, which I think is geared towards like 9th or 10th grade math level, and then have taken other math courses, but, over time or whatever, people kind of maybe not necessarily retain that. Whatever it is, I think it's a higher math skill than people appreciate that's needed kind of in the industry. And then, of course, you've got, everything from, COI checks and passing drug tests and needing to have those soft skills and being able to show up on time. All those kind of factors kind of roll into there's a lot less candidates out there for manufacturing jobs than you might think, kind of like thinking about your dad's, day and age when, you drop out of high school and you go work at the manufacturing plant. Those days are kind of gone for the most part. And, I think manufacturers have to maybe take a look at the industry, and a lot of them that I talk to, do appreciate the fact that over the course of the last generation, they've changed their business model. They've got a lot of more foreign competition. They had to become leaner and meaner, right? And more productive in the people that they have on the shop floor. So, you no longer take that high school dropout to help sweep up and to just kind of be around, keep him on the books, and he's learning the business as you go. That's not happening these days.
It's
They
a
can't
skill
afford.
position
It's
now.
a skill position.
Absolutely.
They're not bringing. They don't. So what I think you've seen is, and this is I guess more opinion than fact, is a shift in the manufacturing industry, a shift of who's responsible, whose job is that training, right? I think in generations past there was a much more on the job kind of mentality,
Right.
a much less kind of informal apprenticeship, if you will. And, so a lot of cost was eaten in unproductive or in less productivity by the manufacturers themselves. Now they're no longer having that luxury with global competition and everything that's out there. There's no longer that luxury. So I guess the question becomes, whose role is it to make sure people are trained? And I think a lot of people would say, well, government. It's a public good. It's public schools, right? Kids should be coming out of public schools with the skills they need to be able to get into a career. I think that's not a very controversial setting or statement, right? But if you look at kind of where the business community is and manufacturers are with asking for hey, we need government to be leaner and meaner, right? Run more like a business, leaner and meaner. We need government to cut back. We need to cut our tax rates, right? Mm-hmm. I don't hear corporations asking to pay more taxes. So how do you fund that shift if the business isn't going to pay for it themselves? Understandable. If they're saying, well, we don't want to fund government to pay for it through our taxes, okay. So where does that shift fall? I guess it would be on the individual, right? So Sean, you want to get into
Investing in your
you
own
want to get into manufacturing, you need to find yourself a manufacturing training program.
Right.
Okay? So right now a lot of it's done through government grants, through the MEP and through other, because we have this gap, right? But if you're looking at kind of on the macro level in this shift, and we're talking about, well, whose role is it and how do we sort this out, right? You're asking a job seeker now to kind of take on much more of that risk around training themselves for the future, coming out of school or beyond like a secondary school level. And I'm just, I think it's a big risk. I mean, would you want to take how much would you be willing to pay to get into a manufacturing job when a lot of what you hear about is manufacturers saying, well, we want to run as lean as possible. We've outsourced jobs to other countries. We're bringing in robots to do jobs whenever we can. Mm-hmm. At what point why would that really be the investment you're going to make in yourself is to go into manufacturing? So I think that's been a major factor in manufacturing's workforce decline has been this shift, I think.
How's that different than any any college student, for example, any high school graduate who's trying to decide on what their future lies and what is their return on their investment, whatever path they so choose.
Well, I think there's some jobs that are much much more easily outsourced than others. I think there's been in manufacturing a huge between outsourcing and automation. Mm-hmm. There's been a huge shift in employment numbers over the last 20 years. And so, I think that's hit manufacturing far more than some other industries.
Well, then they have to be then engaged in the process as well, because, you have kids who go into school for psychology, and then where do they go from there? Are they going to be teachers? Are they going to be counselors? Are they going to go into, medicine? Are they going to carry on and what are they going to do with that degree? And there's an abundance of, look at today's statistics. There are thousands, if not,
the numbers
profession
is also dealing with the shift in automation, right?
Who have debts, college loan debts, and have no job.
Or they're taking a job at the local Starbucks, say,
Sure,
or whatever, right? Talk about malemployment. So
the manufacturing training that Jeff talks about, I think, is more specific to that industry. So with a college degree, even though it might be in education, you could still take that and apply it to different jobs. I think if you had whatever the
I can see I can see what you're saying.
My point was this: who's the burden fall onto? So if I, as an individual, feel that there's a return on my, maybe I'll go into a program, whether they're community colleges or whether these specialized trainings. But because manufacturing is a specific industry, they too need to be directly involved with this because this is kind of a tailored path of success. Do you qualify? Will you qualify at the end of this, your efforts to actually get a job? And are those jobs going to be there today, or are we planning to plant the seeds for 10 years from now?
Right.
When there's not only a shift in the technology, but in the labor force that's in that workforce
We're
now.
planting seeds for the future, and it's a bet, and that's part of the discussion. I do want to get around to this other aspect of the skills gap that. If you look at, like, say, in the IT world, right? I just read a report here that we graduate, 50% more people with IT degrees, whether it's certificates, associates, or 4-year degrees, than there's jobs out there for right now. So there's no real skills gap in IT. As a matter of fact, if you look at so IT levels are still down from the peak of education graduate levels and that, but so after the .com crash, that kind of went down. It's slowly been building back up. More people are now going back into kind of IT. But what you see is on the hiring side, more IT jobs. There's been a huge shift there, and they've been hiring more contract workers, more consultant than full time, and then you've got a lot of hiring going on with in the IT world for the guest worker visa program, and that's really kind of where I want to maybe have a bit of a rant here. A recent audit of the program by the government had shown that you got 20% of the sample that they looked at. 20% was of the H-1B high-skilled job visas were fraudulent. The applications were fraudulent. So they said, we're bringing someone in because so what happens is, let's just back up a sec. So you've got a high-skill visa program. So if you own an IT company or you own a company and you need someone specific with a specific set of talents, you're applying to the government for one of these the high-skill visas. They're capped at about $65,000 per year, and you can stay beyond a year. It's a long-term program, so it builds up over time.
Sure.
So you're saying to the government, well, I can't find an American to fill this job. And you're basically certifying to the government with your application that you can't find an American to fill that job. So you have to put, what's the criteria of what you're looking for. And so you've got a whole cottage industry now serving that H-1B market in IT. It's fascinating. We had as part of our STEM grant, we were looking at the IT field, and we brought in the H-1B visa coordinator from DOL. And then, between them and staff that work a lot, like the BSRs, business service representatives in our career centers that work with IT companies, they understand kind of, what's going on with the market there. And, basically what happens is you've got this cottage industry of companies that help an IBM or help a major IT employer. They'll say to you, well, listen, we'll help write the visa applications. We'll help verify that there's no skills, and they kind of play games with what they're looking for. And then people come over working for XYZ agency and then get hired out on a project-per-project basis to the larger companies. The people that are laid off at those larger companies that used to do those jobs are saying, well, if you look at what they're hiring now for these consultants, they're paying a lot less.
Right.
So they're using this high-skill visa program as a way to reduce their labor costs.
So
right?
they're manipulating the system, taking advantage of the system.
There's my, so I ask you.
It took 10 minutes to get to that rant. That's a 10-minute rant.
That's a
We
well,
finally got to the point of the rant.
I want to make, I want to build my case. I'm building my case.
I'm
Brick.
back.
I'm building my
Now
case.
we're going.
Brick, I am methodically building the foundation of this case that I think that's un-American. I think those companies ought to be punished somehow. I don't know what the appropriate level. Dr. Zakowski, you don't have a microphone here, but, we could probably swing one over to you. You have a comment to make, sir. We'll share this one.
Most of the positions with the H-1B are not entry-level positions. If you look at some of the statistics, they're really technical, highly technical.
And that's exactly it. They're supposed to be high-skilled individuals that you can't just fill with people off the street. And I know there's certain industries, manufacturing being one of them, that is a reality.
Yep.
My problem is with the IT industry, where you have a ready pool of unemployed and recent graduates that are coming into the system that aren't being hired.
Yes.
Because you've got these companies manipulating the system and playing games with the system in order to reduce their labor costs.
So
And I think hurting America and cue up the country music song, and let me get my American flag out. I just think it's un-American. Bob, I think you ought to do something. Dr. Zakowski, you ought to do something about it.
I think we need to talk to our legislators.
I think
We'll get
I don't know.
Congressman.
I don't know. It's just the more I found out, the more I feel it's a bit of a cesspool of fraud and abuse.
So what did the DOL representative have to say? Did they have any thoughts on it?
The woman is there. She coordinates she basically says, we have a limited, again, you've got the same employers that are abusing the system having a strong influence on the political process around the budget process for government. So she's basically saying, well, we have people in enforcement, a limited amount of people in enforcement trying to catch these cases of abuse, but it's not always coming to light. It's very, in some instances it's difficult to prove. And then in other areas, yeah, a company gets caught. It's a cost to them to do business. We'll pay the small fine and keep going, right? It's just a cost to them that they just kind of maybe probably factor in. So I don't see people doing jail time over it. Maybe that would be maybe some criminal liability would be in order. I don't know. I just think it's a shame that we have people in the IT sector. Supposedly we've always said you play by the rules, you get a good education, you work out. You talk to some of these IT people that are out, outside looking in, especially the older workers, because they're more expensive. They got more expensive. They're on the outside looking in, and you've got this whole shift to. Just the other part of this is just in general the shift to going from full-time worker to part-time consultant or temp consultant, I guess you'd say, and that model in general, right? We don't have a safety net of, say, Sweden, where you can really have a very comfortable, good family life, right? Without, our health insurance system for the most part is based. I mean, with Obamacare, we've got maybe a bit of a shift there, but by and large, it's employer based. So when you're going from you're kind of out on a limb, right? And that's fine for some people, and that's fine in general. But can our whole society operate with people kind of living paycheck to paycheck, job to job? Does that really help from a very macro level? Does that really help family stability? Does that really help our country grow and thrive? And I think these are the issues that kind of, I guess, on some level in my gut, kind of rankle me.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't it, though? Because, I'm a pro-business kind of guy, and I'd obviously, we're pro-business because you want to help companies either maintain or grow not only their profits, but obviously their employee base and expansion and things of that nature, and keep the jobs here, local. So if we're going to assist companies to continue their profitable business, I don't understand why we can't have a nationwide search and what have you, assisting them and making sure that the monies are an incentive to hire Americans.
Exactly.
I know it's a global competitive market field, especially IT. You're talking about IT, but by the same token, they should be rewarded for investing in our resources at a local level, regional level, national level, rather than going international. That's where the rewards and the incentives and the benefits should come from, not in the programs, not these kind of other scenarios that you speak of. I mean, it is a shame. I'm going to jump on board your rant.
Excellent. I see. I have built the foundation brick by brick, and now you're on the way with me. You're on the way with me.
One of those bricks.
But speaking in terms of just connecting, employers with local residents, I know that there is a local community labor coalition, and Sean had the pleasure of talking with one of their members.
Yeah. I've actually got the interview here. Would you like me to just play it and we can talk about it after?
There you go.
Bob, we all set? All right, we're here now with Leo Miller, the business manager at IBEW Local 96. Leo, how you doing this afternoon?
Hi, Sean. How are you?
Good. So, Leo, we brought you on the show to talk a little bit about the Worcester Community Labor Coalition. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Labor Coalition came together, I'm going to say informally, probably back in 2012, and it was really out of probably a collaborative concern for where some of the economic development in the city was providing benefits to the community in some of the neighborhoods. And so there's a couple of different things that always comes to light when these types of initiatives get incubated, and you probably heard the term community benefits agreements, REOs, responsible employer ordinance, and those types of things. And really, the overall goal is to make sure that whatever the economic development teams are doing to bring business to the city, and whatever they're providing for incentives, tax relief financing, or whatever, that it's actually going to pay some dividends to their inner city neighborhoods and the various organizations that really call the city their home.
So it's about getting local people to work. Is that a fair description?
That's probably a good short description of it.
Good. And you talked about some of the neighborhood groups. Is there a focus on certain neighborhoods, or is it just Worcester in general?
I think it's Worcester in general. Obviously, I think the ones that always probably get overlooked are some of the inner city ones, some of the ones that probably have lower incomes. The average incomes in the households is a lot less than some of the other neighborhoods, and they have a hard time with, communicating and finding the opportunities that are out there. And so, obviously the organizations and the groups that represent those citizens, they're at the table and they're playing a role in this thing.
So the city's economic development team might work with a company to open up shop here in Worcester by giving them some sort of tax incentive, and then the turnaround would be that they'd help hire local individuals to work. Is that kind of the...
Correct. And then, the role that organized labor plays in the whole thing, obviously, is trying to help ensure that those jobs are meaningful, that they build, that they can lead into solid careers and, opportunities that actually pay living wages and benefits so that they can support their families on.
And is that what makes the coalition so important? That it's kind of making sure that they're hiring people from Worcester and making sure that the wages are livable and things like that? Is that what the coalition is working around?
Correct. Yep. I mean, many times, people, obviously, one of the things that I've been in this role for about 14 years, and, one of the things that I see that's common out there is that economic development a lot of times is going to get it's going to be seeded in the construction phases, and so you have the opportunity to be bringing in outside money, whether that's federal, state, or even private money, into the city's economy by way of construction jobs. And so the construction piece is very important in the sense that if you're not paying some attention to the process and the way that the thing's rolling out, you could very well have a lot of out-of-state tradespeople coming in
And taking these jobs?
Taking the jobs and taking the paychecks and cashing them out of state. So you just basically lose that whole early, impetus to the whole economic development piece.
Right. But if the coalition trains and gets people here ready to take those jobs, then it's kind of that first come, right?
Right.
Cool. So I'm sorry. So what are some of the other organizations involved? I know the WIB's involved. I hear IBEW's involved. The city. Are there other community partners involved?
We have, there was a few of us that in the initial stages we did some outreach, and we've tried to keep this thing really, I'm going to say, non-formal, if you will, and basically, that we tried to put some guiding principles together just to ensure that, that all the organizations were getting benefit out of it, because there's obviously, depending on who you're working with, they may have different issues. Obviously, the building trades piece of it, for which, I play a role in, is only one piece of it. There's other groups. Some of the groups that are involved, Worcester Roots Project,
Worcester Interfaith, some of those type of...
Interfaith plays a role. Frank Carthizer really kind of heads up the, kind of chairs the actual coalition. The Worcester Unemployment Action Group.
Oh, yeah. Chris Horton over there.
Chris Horton, right, with Worcester Worcester Unemployment Action Group. He's very much involved, and obviously their concern is trying to get some jobs rolling here in a very difficult economy here in Central Mass. We got Jobs with Justice, which is a labor-based organization.
So it sounds like you got the right people around the table to make this really like a successful project.
Right. A lot of neighborhood centers. We, in the beginning, we had the Pleasant Street Neighborhood Center, and then we were able to talk. Ron Charette with the South Worcester Neighborhood Center is actively involved, and it's all good stuff, really. It's just, and one of the recent initiatives that we've been working on is actually looking at trying to put together a more formal training program so that when whatever the business is that's coming to town that's getting the assistance from the economic development team,
Yep.
that we can provide them with a list of inner city folk that are ready and willing and qualified to go to work right away.
We've got these skilled workers ready to go right now, that kind of thing. So actually that brings me to my next question. What are the varied jobs? Are they mostly in labor, or are there other job titles involved?
Well, labor is a very generalized term. I mean, I think a lot of people will relate it to organized labor, which, in reality it isn't. It's just labor is labor, right? It's anybody that's out there working for somebody to earn a wage and some benefits. There's minority groups that are being underserved. We just, I'm going to say, brought on the adult education program over there, which will play a very critical role for the populations that, some of the immigrant populations that come in have a difficulty with the English language, so they're getting classes over at the adult ed through John McGovern's program.
Yep. Worcester Public School? Is that through Worcester Public School?
So that, trying to get them work ready and able to get on the job sites. We're trying to just make sure we got all the pieces there so that everybody can qualify.
Now, if somebody's listening at home or watching at home and they're interested in learning more about how to get in touch with these type of jobs, where would they go? Is there somebody they could talk to or get involved with?
We're actually working right now. Actually, Jeff Turgeon there with the Workforce Investment Board is helping to put together. We're trying to put together an application piece where they can connect and they can get their names into a pipeline. I would say right now, until we formalize something, that the best outreach is really to go through to whether or not they can connect with a neighborhood center, some type of representative organization,
right?
And or they can, basically reach out to us direct.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us today, Leo. We appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a lot of things going on over there, so we appreciate you taking some time this afternoon to talk to us.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
All right, Leo.
This is WCW Worcester 91.3 FM, and you're listening to Working Lunch. And just a reminder to our listeners out there that if you made a pledge during the spring fund drive, please be sure to send that pledge in. We appreciate it, especially our members and our donors. What's going on, Sean and Jeff?
I really flipped that around.
Yeah, really, giving us back the business here. So, boys, first of all, Sean, it sounds like you really needed some hot tea or something, huh?
Yeah, did that yesterday.
And honey.
Still under
Tea
the
and
weather
honey.
yesterday, too.
But he's a trooper. He's jumping in
through
there.
it.
I know.
Fought through it.
I was actually scheduled to do the interview, but had to. I got called away last minute. Special. I can't really talk about the mission I was on, but I got called away last minute, and Sean jumped in there, struggling with the voice and all. So
it was a pleasure to learn about the program.
I know Leo.
the coalition. Yeah, they're doing a lot of good things.
I know you'd been involved with it, but
other than, oh, I'm going to this meeting, I didn't really know what it was about. So it was great to learn about it, and it's nice to know that the WIB's involved with something like that.
Well, it is about, as we kind of getting back to the last point too, about just connecting, local folks with local work opportunity and helping those businesses to get the skilled workforce that they need. Speaking of a skilled workforce, we also do a lot of youth programming at the WIB, and we have, right now we're in the middle of a project with Young People Youth Works for the year-round component. We have about 100 youth in that program, working hard at various places. It's a real learning opportunity for them, and certainly, anytime you work with, that program really featured working with disconnected youth. So youth that are out of school, out of work, and a lot of times those youth are really struggling with a lot of challenges.
Right.
We as we know, firsthand when we have interns come in from the program as well. So we sometimes see, struggles with housing, which leads to dependability issues, or without a stable house environment and all that. So, so for that component, for this program, it has been a bit of a challenge. We've done everything we can to try to help people understand the value of what they're getting and help give them the tools to succeed. And I think in the long-term, big picture, it's really going to make a huge difference for those young people. Sometimes even those negative outcomes, if someone is...
It's a learning.
It's a learning opportunity there, too. So, we do have the summer jobs coming up. The Summer Youth Works program will be serving about 350 youth, give or take.
And is
the
recruitment
plan.
going on for that right now?
It's not. It'll be started next month.
Okay.
So we're in the phase right now working with the state and Commonwealth Corporation on the rollout of the program here in Central Massachusetts, and we'll be firming that up, and then next month be recruiting through the schools, youth community organizations, and as well as working with young people that come in, kind of off the street, if you will, to fill out an application and matching them up with first of all, they get work readiness training up front. Mm-hmm. And then they're put into a subsidized work opportunity it'll probably this summer for an additional 6 weeks of paid work opportunities. So.
And what's the process for like a local business to get involved if they want to host one of these?
Sure. So right now they could just they can go through the website or contact me in the office over at 508-799-1509, and I can send them out we actually have an application, or it's a one-pager that we have hosts fill out, basically describing what the young person would do, the host employer's ability or capacity to oversee that work and to make sure that it's going to be, a decent learning opportunity, for a young person. We do want to strike that balance, right, between hands-on meaningful work, which is, helping the organization, helping the host employer, but at the same time, there's a bit of a commitment on their end to provide guidance and mentoring and to give some feedback about how the young person did so that they can use it as an opportunity. So, and I know, Jennithan, you've been involved with a lot of youth activities. We also, the CMWIB coordinates a program with the State's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education called Connecting Activities, and it helps to fund an infrastructure of staff that work with the public schools to broker paid and unpaid internship opportunities for young people, and also host things like youth career days and stuff. And Jennithan, you've been very, very active down in Milford area with Milford High and other Blackstone Valley Tech and other schools.
We've been working with the Blackstone Valley Education Foundation, and they had their annual meeting, which you and I attended about 3 weeks back, and well represented, a large function. State legislators were there, in addition to several administrators from the school systems in the surrounding area. And just the other day, last Wednesday, as a matter of fact, talk about a busy week, we actually hosted in the Milford office the BVF administration team and 10 of the local high schools along the Blackstone Valley. Representatives being youth counselors, administrators, teachers, who came in for a 3-hour orientation. where we went over what the Career Center does and also some of the specific topics that we speak about in working with the youth.
And some of the resources, that you might
They're readily available.
Yeah.
We've actually been to 4 schools already. We're plotting and planning out there. So we've already been to 4 of the high schools out there, spoken to the students, worked with one of the schools as a career fair, job
I
fair.
believe at the Blackstone Valley Education Foundation meeting, that big meeting that you were talking about, you were described as a vanguard
As a matter of fact, I was. Right.
in your work as a career center with youth in school programming. Not every career center does that. Certainly, it's probably you're in the minority of career centers that do really much any kind of specific youth programming, but you've kind of jumped in both feet with the schools around your area in Milford and have done a great job with that. And Dr. Zakowski, I know you're involved with the program and helped connect me with the program. I'm going to switch microphones here. Called Skills USA.
Yes, it's a national organization composed of students from all 50 states as well as Guam and Puerto Rico. And it's coming up now for the statewide competitions that are taking place, and Massachusetts will take place May 1st through the 3rd.
And for many years, you've been a judge, both at the regional level here and then also the national level.
Yes, but there'll probably be about 2,000 students competing to go to the nationals.
Wow.
And it's nationals, it's leadership and it's skills conference. The nationals will take place the week of June 22nd in Kansas City, Missouri. This is the 50th year of the competition, and it will be the last year of competition in Kansas City, Missouri, because it's too small of a venue. And
Wow.
And they're going to be moving to Louisville, Kentucky next year. The space.
What do you, now, you've been a national judge there. You've been going for the past several years.
Yes.
So that's going to be a big, all the famous steak places and everything
all the
in
famous
Kansas
steak
City.
places. And,
So now you're going to have to have a whole new.
Kansas City, Missouri itself, in Bartle Hall, Bartle Hall is the main convention center. There are no center beams to hold up the facility, and it's actually 400,000 square feet of space there. And they use that along with 3 other auditoriums, and there isn't enough room. There'll be 15,000 people there that week with the judges, the corporate sponsors, the students and their advisors.
Getting back to here on the local level, and I judged last year, and I'll be helping give a hand this year. It's an amazing program. I mean, the young people come in; they're all dressed, they're all dressed up. They've got their blazers on, they've got slacks on or skirts or whatever. They're not peacocks.
Yep. And that'll take.
And they do. So they come in. You've got a panel of judges, and they come in one on one, and they give their presentation. Which usually involves or might involve, I say blazers or whatever, but they may, if it's a carpentry student, would come in carpentry gear or whatever, and they come in and they actually give a hands-on demonstration in a talk about a great opportunity just to kind of learn presentation skills. I wish I had some of the poise and skills that some of these young people show. It's amazing.
And the other competitions will take place down in Blackstone Valley Tech. So you can go down there and see the carpentry working and the plumbing and the residential electrical, as well as.
And they're doing real hands-on demonstrations, and I know that you have some stories. I mean, not obviously anytime you have a range of young people. There are some that do better than others, and I know that you've had a couple close calls with people coming in to demonstrate how to use like a power saw or something. Where you had to, we better.
It's really look to the safety, and the judges donate their time. They're from business and industry and management, and on the panels there've been professors from Boston College, their graduate school, and it's a lot of volunteer time.
Well, it's a very neat program. I know they do just a fabulous job of getting young people involved with hands-on. I mean, the skills that they're learning. Plus, it's a great probably for the ones that make it to the nationals. Just that experience of traveling and being a part of something that big.
Gold medal winners in each of their competitions will represent the state down in Kansas City. And
we've had some national champions come out of Massachusetts,
we have
right?
national champions. Massachusetts is last year was the second state in the number of medal winner.
Wow.
So,
Which
and,
of it? I'm sorry.
and it's both at the high school level as well as post-secondary. So there'll be also post-secondary students there. They compete against each other. They do the same technical, technical ability and skills, but they're competing against those in the post-secondary.
Great.
I was just curious, which competitions have you guys judged?
Well, there's one called Demonstration A, and Demonstration A is basically, as Jeff was talking about, demonstrating something to do with their career training. That's different than those individuals that are competing in the carpentry or whatever. So it starts at the high school, and the high school, the students that are interested in competing, then go on to the regionals. The regionals were held in March throughout the state, and those that won the regionals will be down in Marlboro next week.
Yep.
I meant which which events, I guess, would be like what was.
What did you judge, Jeff?
So I was in. It was kind of a range of demonstrations. So a number of students. So I want to say I probably judged during the course of the day, and they're all rigidly timed to I think 4 to 5 minutes. And so I want to say I judged about 40 different students, and probably of that, maybe about 15 or so were some sort of cooking demonstration. So they're culinary students, and so they were going to make like a certain type of sauce or and they're doing it right in front of you. So if the blender doesn't work, they've got to roll with it and figure it out and make sure that, they're still presenting in a way. Or if they forgot the mayonnaise, well, they've got to, do whatever. They've got to, cover themselves, right? And so, they had that. You had healthcare students that were demonstrating, like, one was, how to properly, how to take vital signs. Another one, how to properly, set up to draw blood. And then, so there was probably 10 or so healthcare students. You had others that did, one was he was, gave like a band demonstration about different types of music that are required as part of a marching band. It was so there's like a range of
various ones. Yeah.
Well, there are some. I mean, the different this was kind of like an open category that I was under, but Bob's referring to there are separate categories
There are
for
different
carpentry
categories.
or whatever. So mine was kind of an open category.
What is the recognition if they win or if they move on?
If they move on, they go to compete down in Kansas City.
And then what? They recognize like.
And they recognize it's a large arena that seats 15,000 people, and they're called up at the end of the day, and just like you see the gold and bronze medals, yes, they're business and industry provide them with all types.
Mm-hmm.
It's either tools or scholarship money or whatever is provided. And then there are also those that are really look promising, go on to the internationals. And the internationals, a business or industry, will sponsor that student for a year, helping them to go to the nationals. And guess what?
We're almost out of that, but we did. Go ahead.
Actually, just quickly, I just wanted to know: are they always looking for judges? Is that something
folks might get involved with?
Or is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
They usually have the volunteers that year after year, but they're always looking.
Cool.
And I can provide that at the next.
Well, so if folks want to maybe just Google the Skills USA competition,
Mass Skills USA.
Do we have time? I think we have 2 minutes, and we do try to get it in the mail.
We need to be quick because
real quick. It's actually pretty topical since we have Jennithan on the show. Janice from Whitensville writes, "Hey guys, I went to the job fair, but I'm interested in finding out on how to follow up on my leads. So Jennithan, maybe you have a couple words on that."
Yeah, actually, first of all, I would follow up with the company itself, but by the same token, contact the Career Center, ask for the business service rep, because there is some interaction between our business service rep, the BSR, and the employers that were there, and we could follow up as well. So it's a collaborative.
So reconnect with your Career Center and your local business service representative.
Follow up with the company, see how that's going, and then check in with us. We'll help.
Well, You've done it again. We've successfully managed to get through another hour of the Working Lunch here on WCUW. You've been listening to myself, Jeff Turgeon, from the CMWIB, along with Sean McGauley and Jennithan Cortes, the manager over at Workforce Central in Milford, along with Dr. Bob Zukowski, our producer and famed Skills USA judge. So thank you for another month. We'll see you next month.
Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more.